What up? After that Tuesday night football, that was lit. That was lots of fun. Ryan Tannehill, actually highest scoring quarterback in all of fantasy with that performance tonight. You wouldn't believe it. We are presented by DraftKings. Of course, go download the DraftKings Sportsbook. Throw that code DNVR in. Never a better time to join with all the great stuff they have. You can bet on fantasy points on there as well. So yeah, what up, fellas? How are you guys doing? No Broncos game, but a whole lot of other action.
I'm having a great time. Just sitting here watching football. I've been looking through all the fantasy stats. There's some pretty fun waiver claims this week. Guys like Travis Fulgham, where I'm not really sure if we're buying in or not. I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts to get off my chest. Also, LeVeon Bell, he gets released. I don't know. There's a lot going on, and I'm really excited to get to talk about all this.
I feel vindicated. I was giving Guy. I was giving Hank a whole lot of crap on the tailgate for picking a LeVeon Bell prop.
Mm-hmm.
And my man covers the prop because what did LeVeon have to do? Like run for how
40
many
yards?
40. It was
wound up at 60. Yeah.
So, right. But then, and I we placed a bet on that or something. Mm-hmm. And he wins the bet, but then LeVeon gets cut like 2 days later.
Yeah. Man. Well, you're forgetting the part where I also had LeVeon on my sit list. I had him in that window where he was going to hit the prop, but not be fantasy viable. And I hit that window, and I feel like I deserve money for that.
Yeah, so you guys are patting yourselves on the back for doubting the Jets. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yep.
Wow. Real high-stakes stuff going on right here. The hottest takes ever.
Truly. I will also tell you about the other bet Hank won against me this week as we move along. But, week opens with Bucks Bears. Brady would have been on my sit list, but we don't do those until later in the week. And yeah, nothing really to report there aside from Ronald Jones being a stud.
So far, we've had 5 sit lists. How many times has Tom Brady been on there?
Would
that have been number 3 or 4?
A regular. Yeah, probably. Probably. And basically I've always been right except for the one time he threw 5 touchdowns. That one hurt. But yeah, Nick Foles, whatever. David Montgomery, if he doesn't get the touchdown, it's a disaster. Though in PPRs, he does give you 10 points for 7 receptions and 30 yards. It is nice to see Allen Robinson be fantasy viable with these Bears. But to me, the storylines from what feels like ages ago, Thursday night, is the Buccaneers wide receivers aren't necessarily super duper fantasy viable week in and week out because of Tom Brady, and Ronald Jones is kind of the guy. So,
yeah, I mean, there's just a lot going on with that team. OJ Howard was kind of the receiving threat. I said last week to pay attention to Rob Gronkowski. Don't start Rob Gronkowski, but watch what happens with OJ Howard out. He winds up with 3 catches for 52 yards. Cameron Brate had 5 catches for 44 yards from the same position, the same tight end position.
Make Cameron Brate again.
I mean, that's happening, bro. That's happening.
You think so?
Yeah, OJ's hurt. Gronk isn't giving you a ton. What's happening with Godwin, man? I would love to go back to the top 10 wide receivers because outside of Hopkins, it's a disaster.
It is a disaster. And it was kind of crazy, just looking through some of these for the game we're going to play, but it is a disaster. You look at the average scores, who's leading. Number 1 right now is a man who's only played 2 games. Travis Fulgham has the most points per game of any receiver right now.
He's been on fire lately. I like the Fulgster.
Do you?
Nothing else because he's got opportunities. And RJ, man. So one of the themes, we're going to talk some would you rathers tonight. We're obviously talking waivers. Fulgham atop of that list, though there's another. Oh, Canada, if you know what I mean. There's another big waiver claim this week. Where was I going with that?
a really good question.
I hate that. Okay, we're moving on to Carolina, Atlanta, because it'll come back to me. Oh, we're also doing eulogies in this one. Hank, you are the more refined, classically trained journalist on this crew. How are you on your eulogy right?
I'm hurt, man. I don't even know my journalistic skills.
Okay. That's true. I actually don't. Even though I interviewed and brought a guy into this company to start with, I can't remember if he's classically trained as a journalist. I'll be flat out. I'm a communication major with a journalism minor. But what I really want to know is, how are you as a eulogy writer?
I could write eulogies. I would have liked to have had just a little time to prepare beforehand, but sure, on the fly eulogies, why not?
No, you don't have to write one right now. That's just my silly segment, because I think it's time to sharpen your classically trained journo pen, go up into the mountains like a Hunter S. Thompson, and start to type up that eulogy for Leonard Fournette. What do you think, my friend?
Ooh, for Leonard Fournette.
Fantasy stock-wise, folks. Okay, we're not mean. I don't wish death upon anyone. I just want to.
Was he ever alive to begin with? That's my real question.
No, he showed signs week 2. I swear. I think just in time to screw a start for Ronald Jones that I went on record for. Leonard Fournette has his final gasp of life and then retreats, make me look like a fool. But I really think it's over for Leonard. And it's Ronald's world that we're living.
Yeah, I think so too. He just looks like such a good running back. He's like, that's the thing, is you can look at the numbers if you want, and I guess in fantasy that's all that really matters. But if you just watch him play football, that is a really good football player, and I think that that's going to be enough to keep Leonard Fournette from being fantasy viable.
Yeah, he's been a good downhill runner, and they're kind of relying on that running game. Moving along, staying in another NFC South bout, this time Panthers-Falcons, a game that kind of screws me because I thought this would be much more high-scoring than it was. This is my other bet that I lost this week. Was I bet Hank that Matt Ryan would be a top 10 fantasy producer on the week against Carolina's defense. It seemed like easy money guy. Would you believe it? Matt Ryan doesn't even get double-digit fantasy points.
Yeah, I would believe it because I have him on a team. I ended up losing that because Matt Ryan got, 6.8?
6.7. What garbage. 21 of 37, throws a pathetic interception in the red zone. Just garbage. But it doesn't matter because Calvin Ridley's still the GOAT, apparently. Just having this insane breakout fantasy season. Todd Gurley. Anyone want to toot their horn about believing in Todd Gurley because he's kind of a stud and he's back?
You were preaching injuries to me all during our draft prep. I mean, he's not I don't know if I'd call him a stud necessarily, but he's been, considering all the other disappointments around him, I think, it's safe to say that he's at least safe.
He's just so hard to tackle. It doesn't matter that he's lost nearly all of his explosiveness. You just can't tackle that man.
Yeah. 11. Running back 11. Outscoring guys like Jonathan Taylor, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Miles Sanders, David Montgomery, Melvin Gordon.
Miles Sanders, I think he missed, 2 games?
I think he just missed 1.
Okay, but still on a per-game basis, he's probably got more points.
Yes, he does. 17.1 over 15.9, ahead of David Johnson, Nick Chubb. So no, he's having a nice.
Last name? Sorry,
Nick Chubb.
Last name. Oh,
Nick Chubb.
What Kareem Hunt? Where's he at in this list?
Let's see.
Believe he's ahead of Nick Chubb. Is that correct?
No, we're going by total points, so he's actually behind.
What? Oh,
I must be missing him. This makes for interesting.
Half-point PPR, I have Kareem Hunt at 82.5 points, which is 60.5 per game. That's 7th.
I'm just not seeing him on this list.
Well, anyway, we can move along on that.
Yeah, but anyways, Carolina is Teddy B is great. DJ Moore resuscitated this game. That was key, though Robbie Anderson, Bobby is still a beast, and Mike Davis has been a top 10 running back in fantasy, and he was extraordinary.
I just remembered, though, one of my would you rathers is for the rest of the season, Todd Gurley or Miles Sanders.
I like what Sanders is doing.
I would take Sanders. And I also think that, I mean, Dre's been tooting this horn for a while now, but Todd Gurley's kind of due for an injury here soon. So I think we have to wait and see what happens with the new coach there in Atlanta. But I would probably be selling on Todd Gurley right now because it feels like this is – I think this is his ceiling.
Yeah. I mean, and if his ceiling is 14 carries for 121 yards and a touchdown, along with everything he did in the receiving game, like that's not a ceiling that scares you away by any means.
No.
Yeah. It's interesting how Mike Davis is going to reshape this Carolina offense. Does this make McCaffrey more of a wide receiver? What's that do to Curtis Samuel, DJ Moore? Very interesting because Teddy's got them humming. And again, as we said Sunday morning, feels like they're just scratching the surface of what's possible in Carolina right now. Pretty exciting fantasy team. And I think you can still buy low on a lot of these guys' stocks. So that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
And by the way, that year-round bet we have of Julio over Ridley, that one's
it's close to done.
Yeah, it truly is.
Close. It is done, man.
Yeah, that's sad what's going on with Julio. Two of the highest scoring performances of the week came from quarterbacks David Carr and Patrick Mahomes in the AFC West. Derek Carr. Oh, man, I haven't done that in years.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. Whoa, I used to be really good at that. Crazy. I just showed my age. Josh Jacobs does get 2 touchdowns. Henry Ruggs kind of proves to be key in this one. And outside of Travis Kelce, kind of a ho-hum day from everyone on Kansas City outside of Mahomes. Clyde Edwards-Helaire got anyone scared or no? We're not panicking.
No. This was just a down day for the Chiefs in general. I will say, though, Henry Ruggs, I mean, he had 2 receptions for 108 yards. Is that right?
72 yards and 46 yards.
I mean,
but if you get 2 of those long balls, like, that's worth it, really.
Sure,
and
but
who knows? Maybe next week he gets 3, or maybe next week he gets 1. Like, he is a gamble. He's in that Will Fuller, like, there's a couple weeks where he's going to go off. We don't know what percentage of the weeks will be his weeks or what those weeks even look like, the ups and the downs. I'm still scared if I'm owning him. I'm probably not owning him in fantasy, honestly. But
2 for 118 and a touchdown, that's, 19.8 points? That's not like, I don't know. That's not like game-breaking. That's not like a 3-touchdown game like Will Fuller had last season. That's like 47 points.
Yeah, I mean, it's not Chase Claypool.
Like that is a good game, but that's not something that I think that is reliable.
It's got to be an all-time great 2-catch performance, though.
It's up there for sure. I mean, it's he's Marquise Brown, he's Will Fuller. I mean, Guy, you warned people against this when we did our preseason wide receiver special with Tyreek Hill, who's truly Henry Ruggs' best case scenario. Much like Hill, Ruggs' value as a real football player is massive. His value as a fantasy football player, there are going to be 3-4 games where in daily fantasy or in normal fantasy, you're going to kick yourself like 4 weeks out of the year for not putting him in your lineup. The other 12, you're kind of chill.
And how do you predict it? That's the problem.
You don't. Right. And the other 12 weeks, you're like, well, should I dump this guy? I kind of need to make roster space. So he's kind of a crappy own, but he is important for the Raiders offense. And I do think similar to like Michael Thomas in the Saints office, and he hasn't reached this echelon, but he's got something like that where if Ruggs is healthy and playing, you might feel a little stronger about starting Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs, and even Carr, So that's where Ruggs' value is. But they are a weird wide receiving core. Like
a really fun core, though. And this is something that I hated that I was feeling this weekend.
Yeah, can
but
we not call the Raiders fun? Can we please not do that?
All of the AFC West teams are kind of fun to watch.
The AFC West is always kind of lit and always very fun, and I think that's okay. Any other Chief takeaways? I think that kind of summed it up. Like these games, no big.
Yeah, I think it was just a weird day, man. Patrick Mahomes had 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. This is the first game that he's lost by more than 7 points in his entire career. That's kind of wild. I'm not looking too far into it, man.
It is wild, but is it so wild when I tell you they were my lock of the week? Doesn't that explain a statistical outlier like the first time ever Patrick Mahomes loses a game by more than 7 points? Doesn't it all start to make sense now? Yeah.
But at the same time, before they got that garbage time touchdown, I had the text message all typed out to point out that you had missed your lock by 27.5 points.
What a jerk.
But yeah, it's an anomaly. I'll give you that.
What?
I took a sad nap and was kind of still buzzed from the tailgate, so it was all okay. Speaking of still buzzed and making sense of things, Cardinals, Jets. Let's start off from the positive side. Jamison Crowder is a stud. Must start in fantasy leagues. Must start. Top 5 wide receiver in this disaster that has been the wide receiver class, especially for the top-rated guys that you drafted really highly outside of Ridley, outside of Hopkins. Jamison Crowder is a phenom, a revelation, and the rare quarterback-proof stud. So one of my great calls of the week, and Guy, one of your great calls.
Myself on the back since draft day, man.
Absolutely, he has been outstanding. Put him in your lineup. He's guaranteed 20 points. He's a walking 20 points. Doesn't matter who's playing quarterback. Joe Flacco, we don't care. On the Arizona side, again, Hopkins, dope. Kirk coming around a little more. Chase Edmonds, that pesky little bugger with just 8 touches, gets himself a touchdown, gets himself more yards than Kenyon Drake. Again, is it time for young Hank to fly up to go up to the mountains, go to his writer's cabin, and type up the eulogy for one Kenyon Drake? What do you guys think? Is it time, Guy?
I don't think so, no.
No.
Come on, man. In terms of like rushing attempts, I'm looking right now. Kenyon Drake with 18, Chase Edmonds with 3. So he's still getting a large chunk of volume. He only had 60 yards on those 18 attempts, which isn't the best. What is that, like
3.3.
3.5, 3.3? Yeah. Sure. He still had a touchdown. I just think that in terms of like, I just wish they would use him more in the passing game. He only had 1 target, 1 reception. In the passing game, it just seems like they're not game planning that direction. It's not that he doesn't have the talent. It's
He's become their north-south bell cow is what's weird.
I know. And they weren't using it that way last season, so what changed? Why are they doing that?
And slowly, Edmonds is starting to do stuff with those third down back catches, so it's really pigeonholing Kenyon Drake into this, like... So, yeah, you're right. It's not eulogy time, because with the shape of the running back class, like, he's actually a must start.
Dude, 18 attempps that's a significant...
No, you're right. But he's basically, like... slightly better David Montgomery, which is not what we expected when we were like, we were like, tooting our horns for drafting him in the early 3rd, like we just stole. And I can't believe it. I can't believe Hopkins either. Like I
think Hopkins is kind of like
spread the wealth. Yeah, it's changed this offense significantly.
It has. This is probably crazy, but there aren't a lot of great fits for LeVeon Bell in the NFL. One of the few teams that could be interested in adding what could be a high-end running back that is still in contention. I think the Cardinals, they're probably like just outside the top 3 where there's a chance. But
What a rascal. What a rascal. He's being a rascal right now, Guy. Can you
At 2, Hank? At 2.
I think it's
at 2, Brutus. Truly.
I expect this from Andre, but not from you, Hank.
I think the Bears is where it's one of the few teams that actually has a chance to win a bunch of games and could use an upgrade at running back.
Chance? They're 4-1.
Oh, you're saying the Bears?
Yeah.
Bears, maybe Colts, Patriots.
I know that was in there.
Patriots, I could see.
Yeah,
Patriots always.
The worst scenario for
fantasy owners
would be the Chiefs. I would die if he went to the Chiefs.
Yeah.
What about yeah.
It's hard. There just aren't many teams that could really use him to make a playoff run.
I would say Patriots.
Patriots would be sneaky fun.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And
also,
they should always
he probably
be
wants to stick it to the Jets.
Like
he would probably take a little bit less than market value just to stick it to the Jets. I could see that.
Yeah.
And he'd be playing the Steelers as well, man. He could stick to them too.
What's Nick Chubb's injury looking like? What's the timeline there?
I can look.
It's not good.
But don't do this to me. Kareem Hunt,
because that's another
good.
one. If they want two running backs right there, I know. I'm not trying to just go for teams.
It's not wrong, though.
I know.
Like that could rely on two backs.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is I think LeVeon Bell's just washed.
I went back and watched a lot of him just out of curiosity. I don't think he's washed. He may not have the top end speed. Everybody wants to point to he never had a 20-yard carry or whatever with the Jets. It's but then you
just sucks.
Exactly. Man. And every play, he's getting them 3 yards. You're like, how the hell did that man just pick up 3 yards right there?
His play calling is not giving him a chance. The offensive line is not giving him a chance. There isn't a passing game to really take pressure off him to open up space. I don't think he's done. I mean, he's not. I wouldn't call him a top 10, top 15 back necessarily, but he's going to get a chance on another team, and I don't think he's done.
Would you pick him up on waivers? Just assuming that he's going to get a shot?
Hell yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
I mean,
because whoever picks him up, because whoever picks him up is going to have a plan for him. That's a quintessential waiver wire pickup for me right there.
Really?
You're looking at something with a high ceiling. That's what I want, man. I mean, it could not work out, but this is a waiver wire pickup we're talking about. If I had to trade for him, if I had to give up something for him, that's a different conversation. Then it depends on how much you're willing to give up for him. But if you're picking up off waivers for free, yeah, man.
Yeah. And what's tough for me, we've talked about my team quite a bit in the last show, but DeAndre Swift, would I cut DeAndre Swift for the lottery ticket of Le'Veon Bell? I don't know. I can tell you that I was disappointed to see that he was still on a roster tonight.
Yeah, but think about, the Nick Chubb owners out there, Saquon Barkley owners, if you had, Christian McCaffrey and you didn't get Mike Davis. There's so many injuries that have happened, and I think we have yet to see there's going to be some more significant ones as the weeks go on. I think you have to take that chance, especially just the way that running backs are looking right now. I mean, it's pretty wild, man.
Yeah.
True. One waiver wire pickup that's out there is in the next game, but said waiver wire pickup has not given promising results. That's Boston Scott in this Philly-Pittsburgh game where Ray McLeod led all Steelers rushers with 63 yards on just 2 carries. Don't think that is all that translatable, but that's another messy backfield in Pittsburgh, while Miles Sanders on the other side has a really nice day. But I'm bearing the lead. This was a matchup of the two most intriguing waiver wire pickups out there this week. I would take both these guys over LeVeon Bell on my waiver wire claims. Chase Claypool, my O Canada reference, was to him, the Canadian.
I didn't even realize that he was Canadian.
Yep.
When you said that, I was like, what is he talking about? And I was like, well, it has to be Chase Claypool. And then I had to do a quick Google. And it's like, oh, wow, Canadian.
Oh, nice. Good for you.
Yeah.
And then Travis Fulgham, who back-to-back weeks, I totally thought last week was a fluke because, it was mostly that one touchdown catch where he turns his head at the last second, catches the ball, and makes that phenomenal play on Monday night, right, against the Niners. Mm-hmm. This one, in a loss to the Steelers, he was clearly their go-to weapon. 13 targets, 10 catches, 152 yards, even gets himself a touchdown. yeah, he's a hot pickup. Chase Claypool, kind of a must-have because he's a dangerous gadget for them. Dangerous gadget.
I will say I caught part of this game. Travis Fulgham, I don't know what the Steelers secondary was doing. They just lost him multiple times and he was wide open. So I don't know if I can really say that what he did was like skill-based so much as Chase Claypool just absolutely manhandling DBs. Like, he was jumping over him. He was pushing him around. Like, he was well covered, and he was still doing work. And I think he had 4 touchdowns. One of them was a rushing, 3 were receiving. And he had a 4th receiving touchdown call back on an offensive pass interference, correct? So that could have been a 5-touchdown day for him. Obviously, I mean, you look at the stats, and you're like, okay, yeah, this guy had 5 touchdowns and, almost 200-something yards. So you're going to be like, yeah, that was the better guy. I don't think that even tells the full story either. Like, just physically watching him play, he was just on another level. Travis Fulgham, he had a good day. I would put in a waiver wire claim for him, although I wouldn't make it too high, especially considering Carson Wentz still looked like Carson Wentz with 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
But, the way that the Steelers are playing, they love to air it out right now. And Chase Claypool, just for the eye test, quote unquote, which I'm not a big fan of the eye test, but just from that eye test, looked like otherworldly.
He looks like a guy who is the only person outside of Calvin Johnson.
Thank you. Oh my God, you beat me to
over 6'4", 220 pounds, and run a 4.340.
I was just going to compare him to Megatron. You beat me to it.
Not only
from what he did in the combine, only Megatron at his size has done what he's done, and we're seeing it already on the football field.
And you said over 220 pounds. He's listed at 238.
Oh yes,
like he is well over 200 pounds, and he uses that strength too. That's the thing. It's like you see that, and honestly, it scared me away when we were talking in the draft podcast about Chase Claypool. It's like, yeah, he's a physical freak at Notre Dame and all that kind of stuff. But you see, and you're like, how does a 240-pound receiver translate to the NFL? It's like, well, apparently just fine because he's bullying NFL DBs. He could be something special. And you know what? The other thing is the fact that he's a Steeler. And the Steelers saw him and said, we want this guy. And then this happened. The Steelers have a great history of doing exactly that. They haven't missed on a receiver.
They do. Yeah. But they've had Ben Roethlisberger that whole time. And how much longer does Ben Roethlisberger have?
That's true.
Yeah, he's yes, there is that. And we'll see how much is going to be reproducible week to week, because I think he is more of a, he's a guy you're trying to find on screens and you're trying to manufacture touches for than a guy who just needs to line up and is going to, run his route and win one-on-ones consistently and just dominate week in, week out. But he's insane. And in the modern NFL, a guy like that is already bigger than anyone in a defense's back 7. We don't really have linebackers that are bigger than 6'4", 238 in the modern NFL. A little bigger, but not much. And they're not that fast. So Claypool's an outlier. He is the big pickup of the week.
I think this is the pickup of the year, to be honest, man.
Yeah, with Justin Jefferson a couple weeks ago, but he probably
Justin Jefferson
the edge,
dropped
right?
3.8 this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did not have that.
And also Kirk Cousins and that Vikings offense versus Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers offense, man.
Yeah, and I mean, in dynasties he shouldn't be available, but if you're in funky dynasties like Hank is in,
make sure,
or keepers, I mean, ooh.
What would you be willing to trade for him in a dynasty? Because obviously his dynasty value is, like, right now, his value is pretty high. But in dynasty,
in dynasty,
you think, like, how long does Ben Roethlisberger have and what happens after him? Because their backups there are, like, pretty abysmal, man. Duck Hodges and I don't even remember who the heck else they have. Well, the other guy who got bashed by Myles Garrett.
Mason Rudolph,
yeah. They're not good. So as skilled as he is he quarterback proof?
Big question. In a dynasty, though, I mean, he probably is already feeling like one of the 10 hottest commodities in that kind of format. And that's where dynasties can get funky and funny. If you had Chase Claypool, owners might be willing to do something crazy, Maybe you could get him for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. if someone's getting a little scared, and I might like Chase Claypool over that. If I had Chase Claypool, which I do in one dynasty, to pry him from my hands, you got to give me at least 2 firsts. At least.
First, wow.
Yeah, because to me in dynasty, the longevity of running backs is very short, 3-4 years. Wide receivers can be high-level producers for 10+. So to me, a guy like this is potentially one of the hotter commodities in all of dynasties. So anyways, hot pickup. Yeah, pickup of the year. Don't disagree with that. And Fulgham's right up there, if for nothing else, because of just like the touches he's getting in that offense compared to anyone else are just overwhelming. And in fact, they were the top 2 performing wide receivers in week 5 for full PPRs. Third was Brandon Cooks, which of course he was. Of course he was. I said Will Fuller was. This was a Will Fuller week. So of course it's a Brandon Cooks week. Adam Thielen has a nice week. Mike Williams, who's available on waiver wires in Hank's Funky Dynasty, DK Metcalf, and our boy Jamison Crowder with Hopkins, Emmanuel Sanders, and Calvin Ridley to follow. A.J. Brown behind all of those. Nice return to form for A.J. Brown. Before we get into the Tuesday night game and the rest of the slate and the other sneakier waiver wire pickups, since we've already covered the big ones, once again, shout out to our sponsors, DraftKings Sportsbook. Fire up that app, get in on some props. Jonnu Smith props, which I said were the highest bet on. They get the reception at the very end with that touchdown, but I think it was just short on yards, wasn't he? It was.
I had it just short on yards, but I haven't done the official.
Bummer. Absolute bummer. But that was one of the highest bet props. You also could have got fantasy points on Josh Allen, Ryan Tannehill, all those kind of guys. You can do this every single game in the NFL. You can do it with all sports. It's phenomenal. I have parlays on my Italian teams. It's just beautiful. So download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code DNVR when you sign up and get up to $1,000. That's code DNVR to get a sign-up bonus up to $1,000 for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Colorado only. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus and a first bet match, each up to $500. Deposit bonus requires 25 times playthrough. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. All right. Oh, that was a beautiful place to stop with that Pennsylvania Derby, as I've called it, because those were really I enjoyed us getting in on Claypool there. I will not enjoy talking about the trash that is the Washington football team. Oh, gosh. I mean, how can you justify anyone? Even Terry McLaurin is starting to prove that he can't overcome the trash that is this offense. I mean, this was just a cruel experiment having, Washington's quarterback sacked 8 times. They had no chance. Gibson, who's probably the only guy aside from McLaurin you would start. Nothing to write home here.
They need Dwayne Haskins, honestly.
I have, Jared Goff on the other hand. I'm kicking myself because in my one league where I have Dak, I asked you guys on last show, I think, should I pick up Goff on the waiver wire to kind of have him as my backup? That didn't go through, and then, of course, Dak gets injured, and now he is not available. So I am back to the drawing board, and it's options like Baker Mayfield, Ben Roethlisberger. It's a much lower tier now. Disappointing game.
Ben Roethlisberger is a lower tier? I thought he's been playing well.
Yeah, I mean, in fantasy, he's certainly not Goff, who's been a top 10 performer. And he's certainly not Dak, who was a walking 400 yards, which was really nice to have on my fantasy team in that league where you and I will probably see each other in the finals, good sir. So
I just lost an 0-4 team, so I maybe shouldn't be talking too much.
Oh, man. Well, and I have Kenyon Drake.
I think I picked up my first loss of the season.
Oh, what a bummer. Speaking of losses on the season, it's been nonstop for Tyler Higbee owners. And Gerald Everett, the other tight end, actually leads the Rams in receiving yards in this one, making the most of 4 targets. Is it time for Hank to write a eulogy on this one?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and which sucks because Tyler Higbee's really good and Gerald Everett's really good. And there are reasons why that offense is so good. But in the way that there are very few offenses that can sustain 3 receivers fantasy-wise, there are essentially 0 offenses that can sustain 2 tight ends. And when you have 2 tight ends, basically that just means you don't have any fantasy tight ends.
Do I get to take my my victory lap now?
Yeah, run around your room real quick.
Yeah, what was it, 2-3 weeks ago? After that 3 touchdown performance, I said you got to be careful, man. He's only getting, what is this, 3 receptions, 5, 2, 3, 2. And like his highest yardage total is 54 in that 3 touchdown game. Outside of that, 40, 40, 20, 12. He's entirely touchdown dependent, and the only time he's had a touchdown is in that 3 touchdown game. I mean, yeah, it's not surprising to me whatsoever, man. And I think that going into the season, when everyone was super hyped on Higbee, I was down on him.
Elevated to a top 6 guy because he ended the final 8 games of last year. He was.
And I warned against it.
Unstoppable. You saw it coming from afar. Credit to you. It's over for Higbee. It's over. I hope you have Jonnu Smith or some of the other tight ends we've highlighted throughout the year already. Daryl Henderson, sneaky, terrible game in real life, gets himself 2 touchdowns, though. So it's actually quite a nice fantasy performance. But a little concerned as someone who bought early stock in Daryl Henderson because Cam Akers did have a bit of a breakout game with 9 touches for 61 yards. So we will be monitoring that closely. If Cam Akers is available in your league, that's a sneaky little pickup, I would.
Yeah, and this is hot on the heels of a bad performance against the Giants, too, who he really should have taken advantage of. So, yeah, concerned about him right now.
Not even a target in the passing game for Cam Akers, though, which, you know, it's one game, it's a small sample size, but you would like to see a bit more there.
Yeah. You're right.
I think they're just working him in slowly right now.
Someone else who's being worked in slowly in our next game is T. Higgins, and I've got a pick 2 out of 5 scenario with T. Higgins involved. I hope y'all are ready. These are the hot names on the streets, kids. Pick 2 of these 5. Fulgham, Claypool, Crowder, T. Higgins, Preston Williams.
Crowder, Claypool.
No. LaVisca Shaw. No Preston Williams.
Crowder, Claypool.
Ooh. I think it is Crowder, Claypool. Visca, he's so close. He's consistently putting up
Claypool
like 6, 7, 8 points. But when Claypool has a game like he just had, you got to go with that because he has had all the touchdowns. He has had just a massive game.
Yeah, Visca is like, I mean, he's 3 inches shorter than Claypool, but Claypool is playing the way that I wanted Visca to play. Like in my dreams, that's how I see Visca playing.
It's true.
But that team, I mean, they started off hot, and now they're starting to, revert back
offense is dying off. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Revert back to expectations. So, even James Robinson, who was looking good for a couple weeks, has fallen back to earth. If you sold him, then good job doing that. But now it doesn't seem like anyone's going to be buying at this point, and you kind of missed your opportunity. Jags, I'm staying away from as a whole right now.
It's funny that you bring up James Robinson because not only is he in my Would You Rather game, he's actually going up against one of the Bengals, Joe Mixon. Who do you take the rest of the season? James Robinson so far, 13.5 points per game, Mixon 13.1.
Are you asking me personally that? Because I've been banging the drum for Joe Mixon.
I know you have.
Foretelling his return. Telling people to buy low on him for a couple weeks now. He blew up.
You can buy lower now.
But he blew up in one game, and then they went back to having a bad matchup. And
dude, it was the Ravens.
I know, but he has to play them twice a year, and everyone kind of treats the Bengals like the Ravens. He just got
one of them out of the way, man.
That's true.
24 carries, 59 yards is a rough look.
Fine. If a Mixon owner's selling right now, I'm buying.
All right. Dre, James Robinson or Joe Mixon?
I mean, I think it's Mixon. Begrudgingly.
I'm not too happy about that.
Begrudgingly, it's Mixon. Yeah, just barely. Even as disappointing as Mixon's been, he's just been slightly behind James Robinson.
I mean, I'm looking right now. He had
it's not like they're trending in a different direction, but yeah, Mixon is the safer, like.
Dude, 24 rushing attempts is pretty ludicrous. He only went for 59 yards on that, but that's because, like, what's he going to do against that Ravens team? And I get it. They have to play them once more this year, but 24 rushing attempts is a lot of volume.
Also, 24 attempts. Along with 7.
Right, but he had 6 receptions for 35 as well. So if you're playing in PPR, that's an extra 9.5 points right there on top of 5.9. So that's what?
I mean, he's also the only running back who got carries, rushing attempts in this game. So it's kind of his.
15.4 points in a PPR in a game where they only scored 3 points.
Yeah.
He did that without a touchdown, man. I'm still buying Mixon, dude. If a Mixon owner's selling him, buy. That was like...
Yeah, it depends on the price, but you're right. I mean, he's a top 10 guy. I want to go back to that would you rather. Take Crowder out, just the young guys. I think the answer is Claypool and Higgins. And I love LaVisca.
Really?
Fulgham has the more guaranteed touches of that whole group.
Did you put Justin Jefferson in there?
I didn't. I thought Justin Jefferson was too much of an automatic.
I was going to say.
But
I would take Claypool over Jefferson right now.
That's an interesting conversation. I don't know. I would take a bet that Jefferson will outscore Claypool the rest of the way. Okay, mark that down.
Me? Aren't you our scribe?
No, and I can't. If I'm hosting and Hank's no longer hosting, then I need another scribe. You've been selected as the scribe.
Lucky me.
Lots of takeaways from this Ravens-Bengals. For one, it's eulogy time for Mark Ingram. I'm not asking. I'm saying. I mean, I get it. He was in that tier coming into the year with the David Johnsons, the Todd Gurleys, the Le'Veon Bells, even if you will. We've created some clear separation. Mark Ingram's still important for that locker room, and that backfield's a disaster fantasy-wise because they're splitting carries every which way. It's a mess. I have a ton of would-you-rathers on the quarterback side, though, because Lamar Jackson, one of only 2 quarterbacks that we justified a first-round selection, is QB 15. 15 kids in standard leagues, and that's not good. That's bad. So, yeah, would you rather the rest of the way, knowing what you know now, Aaron Rodgers or Lamar Jackson, obviously in a redraft?
Ooh. I came into this thinking I am not giving up on Lamar Jackson. He is going to bounce back. He is the perfect fantasy quarterback. He's in a great situation. He's going to be just fine. I am not concerned. I'm not falling for Dre's trying to bait me into saying whatever. And then you bring up Aaron Rodgers, who I think is going to be the MVP this year. And how do you say no to that? I think you have to go Rodgers.
5th highest scoring fantasy quarterback guy, Rodgers or Lamar? I've got a couple of these. Yeah, it's rough.
I mean, even in a game where they absolutely just whooped up on the Bengals, he had, 19 for 37, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 int. And he had 2 attempts rushing for 3 yards. That was like a game where you would expect him to just be lighting up the scoreboard, and he didn't. So I got to go Rodgers. As much as I don't want to, I have to go Rodgers at this point because, like Hank, I was like, no way. Like, they finally found their footing. This is where he turns it all around. And then I just looked at the stats. What? In a game where they won, 27-3?
Only 2 carries, 3 rushing yards, no rushing touchdowns? Not good, folks. Not good.
This is the first time they haven't scored 30 points, which is pretty crazy.
That is crazy.
Right? Oh no! Ravens Chiefs. They only put up 20. That for a second though, I was like, "What is
That's
happening?"
how crazy.
Yeah,
It was so crazy.
only
it was
20.
wrong.
In standard leagues, he's averaging 19.6 points per game. He's in a 3-way tie with Jared Goff and Ryan Tannehill. Okay, would you rather Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson? Josh Allen currently the 3rd highest scoring fantasy quarterback.
It's Lamar Jackson.
Okay, good guy. I love that he didn't care to expand on that, but that's just fine.
Did he say Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, he said Lamar Jackson.
No, Josh Allen. This is one blip on the radar, and Josh Allen's the number 3 scoring QB, man. No.
Bet?
I don't even know on this one.
Bet, yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we're betting. So that's rest of the season? Rest
of the season.
Wow. Okay. Kyler or Lamar?
Come on. Don't do this to me. You already know my answer, man.
It's Lamar.
No, it's not. It's Kyler, dude.
Guy's going to pick the other one every single time.
And I'm not doing it to spite your
And I don't think you're wrong.
I was so high on the Cardinals and Kyler Murray going into this. I have money down that Kyler Murray is going to be the MVP, which at this point, not looking so hot. But I still believe in Kyler Murray, man. And that offense is utilizing him so much better than the Ravens are.
6th highest scoring quarterback in fantasy or Kyler Murray. Okay. Final. You guys are cracking me up. Russell Wilson or Lamar Jackson? I think this one isn't even a question. I think
it has to be Russ.
Yeah.
Yep. It's Lamar, man.
Whoa.
Nah, just kidding. I'm kidding. Of course it's Russ, dude. This is he's already won the MVP in my mind.
Wow, man. Wow.
You have these weapons. If you have weapons like that, you should be winning MVP.
Bro, you're not wrong.
I mean, you say he should be, but at the same time, he's still playing very well on his own right. It's not like the receivers are carrying him by any means.
No, he's lights out.
Yeah.
We've already kind of touched on Jags Texans here. With James Robinson's fall, stupid Brandon Cooks getting all the receptions in this one.
My boy.
And actually, Visca bouncing back. That's an all-timer. That bet is going to be lit to week 16.
Visca's trending up still.
Visca's definitely trending up. That's why I had T. Higgins and Visca and even Preston Williams in that mix. All those guys trending up, seeing more touches in their respective offenses, which is exciting. I should mention Will Fuller still not garbage. Does get a touchdown on 4 of 58, 8 targets. Could have done more. Darren Fells, I don't know if you're desperate. I guess that's a tight end option out there. And Minshew, who's kind of looking like poor man's Fitzmagic to me. So fantasy viable-ish, is spreading the wealth too much amongst these wide receivers in Jacksonville to where no one's really getting a dominant share. We even saw a resurgent from Chris Thompson in this one and a decent game from David Johnson. Not sure if you guys have any notes on Jags Texans.
I have one question for you. Kelan Cole or Jarvis Landry? Kelan Cole putting up a little over a point more per game.
I think I'd go Landry.
Still?
I would go Landry as well.
That's fair.
Kelan Cole had 2 receptions for 25 yards and a touchdown. I mean, without that touchdown.
No, it's true.
I don't trust in Kelan Cole. And I also don't think that Gardner Minshew is... I mean, to his credit, he didn't throw any interceptions. But at the same time, I don't think he's taking enough risks. And... in terms of explosive plays and things like that, they're missing that in Jacksonville right now. In lieu of safety, which I don't think they really need safety right now. When you're down by 16 points, are you seriously still trying to play it safe? Come on.
I mean, he's throwing it 40 times a game, so he is giving you fantasy points. He's averaging 18.9, but yeah, you're right. He's not a sustainable option. In dynasties, now would be a good time to try and sell because clearly not the guy you're trying to build around long term. I would move on to Dolphins Niners here. The shocker of the week in a lot of ways. Preston Williams, the big winner. Mike Gesicki looking good. Devontae Parker even does something Here's a fun little theory. If you can't get all the hot waiver claims we've talked about, and obviously if he's still available in your league, because he did have a nice little game last week, Brandon Ayuk, nothing crazy, 3 receptions for 44 yards. He's trending in the right direction with a lot of things going wrong for the Niners offense. The last 2 weeks, Ayuk is going right. If you just look at the raw fantasy numbers, nothing too spectacular, which is why he is available still in a lot of leagues, but a sneaky pickup because his big game is right around the corner with how he's trending.
I disagree. I think Deebo Samuel, they're just playing it safe with him right now because he's come back from that injury. And I think Brandon Ayuk is, this is the end of his relevance once Deebo Samuel is fully healthy.
Wow.
It'll
it
be
has
interesting.
to say more playmakers than just 3 with Kittle in the mix too. But he's kind of looking more explosive. Debo's got more physicality to his game, but he's looking more explosive so far than Deebo. I mean, he jumps off the screen. He really moves nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's tough, though.
Should we make that a bet? Ayuk versus Deebo rest of the way?
Yeah, let's go.
Are you up for it? Okay.
I'm writing it down, yeah.
Let's do it. Browns Colts. Browns Colts. Yeah. So we might as well just run through how this was the week of the handcuffs. Guys like Alexander Madison, Chase Edmonds, Kareem Hunt, all having nice weeks and proving to be very fantasy viable. All names, especially you outlined in the preseason, guy. So pat yourself on the back.
Who? Sorry,
with that one. The handcuffs, Kareem Hunt,
yes.
Chase Edmonds, and who's the other one?
Alexander Madison.
Alexander Madison, all having big weeks and really appreciating this week.
The Madison one, you can't. I don't know. I mean, with everything that was happening with Dalvin Cook before the season,
you got to see
kind
with
of an obvious one. Chase Edmonds, I wish I was not correct on that one. Kareem Hunt, though, you already know I'm through the roof on that guy.
And not even like an insane game, but he gets the touchdown in the receiving game. That offense has just been so creative. He's just a valuable weapon. And I know fantasy-wise he didn't do a ton, but Odell Beckham Jr. looks very much back. And this offense looks like one that is exploiting him very nicely. If I were to target someone, maybe off a down week, you can kind of catch someone slipping on OBJ. He looks back to being one of those truly dominant forces. And so I definitely target him like in dynasty leagues, especially because he's looking back. He's looking back.
I would target him in PPR leagues in particular too, because I do think that what's been working for the Browns is getting the ball in his hands. And it seems like they're kind of just getting him the ball and letting him work a lot more than I remember seeing in the past. It seemed like before there was more downfield type of stuff, and now they've almost just taken 5 yards off of every route and thrown him the ball. But yeah, I might not be
pass it. They're letting him rush it. They're trying to get him involved in whatever way they can. I mean next thing you know, they're gonna have him start kicking it.
If that's what it takes to keep that guy from complaining on Instagram, then that's what you do.
And we should mention Jonathan Taylor gets his 15 fantasy points. This has kind of been the theme with Jonathan Taylor. Keeps underwhelming my expectations going into the week, but manages to get himself enough touches, enough fantasy points, gets in the end zone to be fantasy viable, and with the lack of depth at the running back position, that's certainly quite important. Giants-Cowboys, massive bummer with Prescott, though I do think Ezekiel Elliott owners are probably breathing a sigh of relief and feeling like Zeke is going to have to get more touches and pick it up a little. Andy Dalton, kind of a sneaky pickup because that is an offense that will generate a lot of points. So in really deep leagues, I would consider that. Darius Slayton keeps looking good, and kind of the sneaky story of this game is Devontae Freeman. Is this just a Cowboys trash defense, or is he a sneaky option in your flex?
No, that's the Cowboys trash defense, man. that team has had a trash defense against plenty of other teams. Even with Dak Prescott, we talked about this earlier, even with Dak Prescott having a career year by anyone's metric, that team has still been bad. I mean, they're 2-3 right now, and they beat the Giants by 3 points. Come on, man. Like, that defense is absolutely abysmal. And, yeah, I mean, Andy Dalton will be interesting to watch, but I very much hesitate to buy into anything that the Cowboys are doing right now. And if someone wants to buy a Gallup, a Lamb, I'm selling.
Cooper especially, though, I mean, his stock has plummeted. Another of those.
Zeke I would hold on to just because no matter what happens, like, I will always be involved. But
I think this is sneaky huge for Zeke.
I think, Devontae Freeman might be worth a pickup, but definitely not a high priority pickup. Decent game, 60 yards. The touchdown saved him. He was involved in the passing game, but it's the Cowboys defense. And I think that, like, if the Broncos wanted to hand the ball off to Royce Freeman 17 times, like Devontae Freeman got 17 carries, I wouldn't be surprised if he put up about the same stat line with those carries. And so I'm not ready to say that Devontae Freeman is going to be a good fantasy asset, but I do think that there's a good chance he will be the bell cow back for the Giants. And maybe when he goes up against weaker defenses, things will work out. I don't know.
I'll move on to our next game because probably almost certainly the better pickup at running back as far as sneaky pickups is Alexander Madison. Probably more of a priority pickup because he did have such a massive game in what I'm calling the Gary Kubiak special, where the Vikings ran 41 times, were able to really limit the amount of times Russell Wilson was on the field, and yet Russell Wilson still pulled a rabbit out of his hat at the very end. This was also DK Metcalf's true, not coming out party, but announcement that he's here.
I was gonna say, he's already been out, man.
He is here.
He's like RuPaul. He's been out for a while.
He's a top dog. A lot of reshuffling in these wide receiver rankings. A lot of that top 10, you're kind of funneling them out. And who are you filling it with? Well, Jamison Crowder.
He's been at the top the whole time, hasn't he?
At the top all year?
In the top 3 to 5.
The thing about DK, though, you're just going through the lines. 95 yards and a touchdown week 1. But that was against the Falcons. And you're like, I'm not so sure about the Falcons. The next week, 92 yards and touchdown against the Patriots. You're like, okay, I like the Patriots. But then it does against the Cowboys, does against the Dolphins, does against the Vikings. Now that we've seen this much, I'm not saying he's here as in play him. I'm saying he's here as in all pro. He's here.
Yeah,
okay.
That's what I mean.
I thought you were about to say, go the opposite direction on this and say be cautious. What more does this guy have to do for you?
Well,
man?
Earlier in the season, I thought Lockett was the guy killing it fantasy wise, but right now DK is the 4th highest scoring wide receiver in fantasy. That's not per game. That's 4th highest scoring overall. And Lockett is top 10 as well. CeeDee Lamb sneakily just behind Lockett as well. He's had an
I'd be interested to know. I'll have to go back and do some more research, but I'd be interested to know for this game, because he had, 8 for 124? CeeDee Lamb did? Not to backtrack to the Cowboys here, but I'd be interested to know how much that production came before Dak was injured and how much came after, because...
Yeah, Gallup definitely seemed to be the one who got a few more touches. I can't remember. Yeah, from Dalton. I can't remember.
I will say, though, going back to the Vikings, you talked about Alexander Madison being the hot running back pickup. Yeah. It looks like Dalvin Cook is only going to miss maybe a week.
That's why.
There's a chance he could play 6, but they said the MRI went really well, and they might just hold him out 1 week.
Right. So that's why I think Madison is still gettable. Because you might have to pick him up, start him a week, stash him away another couple weeks. But, I mean, nice insurance. Just a spidey sense that he might be a very viable running back the final 8 weeks. A spidey sense you have had all along as well, guys. So just, throwing that out there. Thielen also had a big game in this one, and Ish Smith, the tight end for the Vikings, got notable touches with all the mess that's going on in tight end land. That would be a nice little pickup. Also, backtracking again to the Giants game, nice to see Evan Ingram, even though not as a classically used, but still get some touches and get in the end zone. They're at least trying their best. Okay, final primetime games. We had Chargers Saints. I got a question from a listener reaching out, and he asked, am I crazy for wanting to flip or for wanting to pick up Justin Herbert and drop Drew Brees? And I said, you're not crazy, though I might consider dropping someone other than Brees, because Brees is still producing at a high level because he's in that offense. But Herbert's good. Even with them just scoring 7 touchdowns in the second half and OT, Herbert still has a monster day. And you just like the upside fantasy-wise.
We should also talk about Justin Jackson versus Josh Kelly here. I thought Josh Kelly, he had this job locked up, man.
He did Justin to start Jackson the year.
Did a lot more with it.
And he did
more touches.
Justin Jackson looked way better.
And he was more involved in the passing game, too.
Oh, way better. The burst on him was just another level. He was extraordinary compared to Josh Kelly, who has been a massive bummer. You know, he kind of got benched early on, like week 2. He had a fumble and then got benched, and I don't think he's been the same ever since. And big game for Mike Williams here. New quarterbacks, you try to figure out, there's always like new favorite targets. Mike Williams' stock might have just increased since it's more of a vertical passing game. A lot more kind of 50-50 balls being tossed up on the outside with how Herbert's playing. And Emmanuel Sanders has a massive game, and like Alvin Kamara keeps on being an alien.
It's crazy that Alvin Kamara, this is basically his floor, and he had, 19.9 points? That's pretty wild.
He is having an all-time special fantasy season. He's averaging 29.9 points per game.
I think we should knock on wood, man.
Fantasy. I mean, and that's full PPRs, which is really where his value is. Yeah, I mean, he still was the 9th highest performing fantasy player. He is insane, man.
Yep.
So yeah, Herbert kind of like Tannehill, a sneaky pickup at quarterback if you're a Dak owner, for example, or if you're a Matt Ryan owner guy and you're ready to not move on completely, but at least
move on completely.
Move on.
Move on completely.
So, okay, rank running back pickups this week. Le'Veon, in no order, Le'Veon Bell, Justin Jackson, Devontae Freeman, Alexander Madison.
Chase Edmonds,
yeah.
Wow. I mean,
I'll go
I'm pretty
Bell
sure that Le'Veon is on rosters in like 90% of leagues still.
But if he's available, I would put him at the top, and I would probably say Justin Jackson.
Wow.
But the fact that he's not available in 10 or 90% of leagues kind of tells you that he should be rostered more often than not.
Should. I don't think there'll ever be a week where you're kicking yourself for not starting Le'Veon Bell. I do think you'll have many weeks. I think you'll have more than 4 weeks where you're kicking yourself for not picking up Alexander Madison. I think Madison's at the top of my list.
Based on the fact that Dalvin Cook's MRI went so well, I can't put him that high, man.
But I'm playing the long game, guy.
I know, but I don't.
Just like you are with Le'Veon Bell.
I think Le'Veon Bell's the long play there. I think he's the correct play because he has higher long-term potential than Alexander Madison. That's just me.
Assuming full PPR, I would go Madison, Edmonds, Jackson. I'm not buying Bell. And maybe it's, I've been a Jets-Giants hater all year. He needs to get the Jets stank off him for me to believe first.
It'll be interesting to see where he goes. I can't make a bet on anything until I see where he goes, but
yeah,
if he's available, I am picking him up. I can guarantee that. And I hope that none of my league mates are watching this show right now.
Interesting. Okay, we'll close it out with the Tuesday nighter. Josh Allen, Ryan Tannehill. We've kind of touched on some of this. Disappointing game from the Bills' backfield with TJ Yeldon getting most of the carries. Singletary not doing much. From the Buffalo side, kind of that was all she wrote. From the Tennessee side, A.J. Brown comes back with a vengeance. Derrick Henry gets you 2 touchdowns, and Jonnu Smith gets you 2 touchdowns. And even Tannehill had an incredible game. So while I was a hater earlier on bets, from a fantasy standpoint, Jonnu, Tannehill, buying stock in these guys, and I'm glad A.J. Brown's back. I mean, I had him in a lot of leagues, had to sit him for a lot of weeks, but it's nice to have him back. Really nice.
It really is. He looked like he was back. He is just so strong. Like when they throw him the ball, he's boxing out any corner you put on him. And I mean, that's why he caught 7 of his 9 targets. And I think that's going to be the case. He is just going to be very efficient. My question is, would you rather have Derrick Henry the rest of the season or Chris Carson?
King Henry for me.
Half point.
Yeah, let's call it half point.
Half point?
Half point.
All formats, I'm going Henry.
That's a good one, man. I'll probably take Henry as well, although, oh man, that's a really good one. I'd take Henry.
I know that Chris Carson was averaging 15.8. Derrick Henry was averaging 15.5 before tonight.
That's crazy.
Probably pretty much balanced it out tonight. Yeah, it's a tough one.
That's a really good one. Yeah, I would just take Henry. The reliability there. But yeah,
just the way that they center that offense around him. I mean, Ryan Tannehill, don't get me wrong, he had a good game, but he was 20 for 28, 195 yards. That's not like they're not airing it out that much. It centers around Derrick Henry.
Yeah, it does. And those potential touchdowns.
Yeah.
But that's what Carson gets, too. That's where Carson's value really is.
But I think if you look at also from like an injury standpoint, has Derrick Henry ever missed a game due to injury?
He's made a lot of other people miss games.
Even though exactly.
True
the last Chris Carson injury, you can't really hold that against him because it was a cheap shot. But he did have some injury concerns coming into the season. He has had some in seasons past. So I would say that Derrick Henry's definitely a safer play for there as well.
Yeah, I would too. But that is one, like, if you're an owner where it's kind of a question, you could try to sneak a 2-for-1 out of a Chris Carson owner if you have Henry, Like, Guy, if I were you're a Derrick Henry owner, and I had Chris Carson and Kenyon Drake, and I offered both of those up for, let's see.
Yeah, just instant accept.
Yeah. David Montgomery, same thing. Swap him out for Kenyon Drake. You still take that 2-for-1? It's hard 2-for-1 for running backs too. Like very few people have 2.
I would also have to see what my team looked like.
Oh yeah, sure.
But I would probably take that too. I think it's close enough there.
Right.
Do we want to answer some questions? Do we have any?
Oh yeah.
We got one in the comments here. We can hit real quick.
Yeah, lay it on us.
That was our last game to cover right there.
Lay it on us. And then, I'm checking my notes. I covered everything I had, and I remind all our listeners to tune in Thursday. Send us all your questions there, start sits, all that kind of stuff. We'll pick some good ones from the Discord and what have you as well. But, lay it on us. What do we have from the comments, guys?
Cool. Miles Sanders for Diggs.
Ooh.
I would say no. I would rather have Miles Sanders in this one.
What's so tough is that there's so few running backs worth starting this year.
Yes. And I'm on the Sanders side. Yes, I agree.
And if it weren't for the fact that it's so hard to replace running backs, I would probably say trade him. but because it is so hard to replace running backs, I just don't think you can justify it. Like, especially because if somebody's trying to make this trade with you, they're probably desperate for running backs, and I bet you could pull something more out of it than just Stephon Diggs.
That's a good point. Also, I kind of feel like with all the struggles the Eagles' offense has had on the line and everything else, and they've been like down in all these games, what Miles Sanders has been able to do production-wise has been out freaking standing this year, considering all those factors. And if they can just improve, if they can just get a little healthier on offense and figure some of this stuff out, this is a coaching staff and a quarterback that's won a Super Bowl. I think Miles Sanders' stock will just take off from where it's already at very high now. And Diggs, when I was running through those top 10 wide receivers, I don't believe Diggs came up. Let's see in full PPR just where he ranks.
I think it's worth noting the schedule for Miles Sanders. Plays the Ravens this week, which is obviously an incredibly tough matchup. But then there's a pretty nice stretch right after where he plays the Giants and then the Cowboys and then the Giants again. And then the Browns.
Yeah, and Diggs is wide receiver 15 for total fantasy points. So good, very good in standard fantasy. And he's top 10 for per game, but not quite the level of trading for a top 10 running back when that is such a valuable commodity this year.
I think like Hank said, having like the replaceability factor, I think that really solidifies it for me. But Sanders easy.
Booyah. Beautiful. Well, thank you for your
on
questions. Nope.
Cool.
Thanks, folks. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Good luck on your waiver wires. This is going to be probably, I think it's the busiest one we've had of the year with all the names we've kind of tossed out there. Even one where you might want to reshuffle your quarterbacks and tight ends to some extent with some of the eulogies we wrote today, some interesting trade proposals in the Would You Rathers. Take advantage of that. We will be back Thursday. Nice to have you back, Guy. And thanks for listening.